to the vote in Iraq, the country accomplishing two big firsts today. Its first nationwide election as a fully sovereign nation since the war began, and the very first with Iraqis in charge of security and U.S. troops taking a back seat. So with the vote largely going off without a hitch, what does that say about the nation's stability as we prepare to move more of our troops out of Iraq? Let's ask National Guard Captain Pete Hegseth, a veteran of the Iraq War and Executive Director of Vets for Freedom. Thank you so much for talking to us. You know, as the polls closed Saturday evening, there were no reports of anyone being injured or killed for political reasons. That's just short of a miracle if you look back the last 6 years in Iraq. What does that say about Iraq's readiness to take control of their own country?
Well, I think one of the things you mentioned is very important. Iraqis controlled and secured their own polling stations. Iraqi candidates campaigned in the open like they do in America, door-to-door housing, campaign speeches, posters on the wall. It was a full-out election process, and I think it says a lot about Iraqis stepping up and taking advantage of the improved security environment. The surge and the surge strategy brought the violence down to a level where Iraqis could work together, and here we are 4 years after Iraq's first elections, and they're going off without a hitch. And it is one step, one notch in a process of eventually bringing our troops home and leaving behind a stable Iraq where Iraqis control it, secure it, and vote for leaders who actually represent them. And one more first in this election is that the Sunnis have come out in mass to participate. They boycotted previous elections, and where I was in Samarra in Saladin province, they had no representation. Today in that city, Samarra has Sunni representation in their government and will have accountability, which is a great thing.
So will these elections then have a real effect or little effect on our withdrawal timeline?
I don't think they're going to have an enormous effect on our withdrawal timeline. I think they're a data point, something to look at about how capable and ready Iraq is, but it is clearly a signal that the strategy we've been pursuing has been successful and should be continued based on the recommendations of commanders on the ground. General Petraeus set out the strategy. It worked. It's being continued on the ground by General Odierno. There's no reason to pull back based on arbitrary timelines. Let's keep doing what we're doing, and thankfully, to his credit, President Obama has already indicated that he's going to listen to commanders and probably won't be wedded to a 16-month timeline.
But why shouldn't this election have an effect on when we pull out our troops? Because the whole reason that we're there in the first place now, this is the second election since Saddam Hussein was taken out of power. And, you know, this time around is way different than back in 2005. I mean, this time around, most of the 14,000 candidates campaigned out in the open as compared to 2005 when most of the candidates didn't campaign at all over fear of violence. So they are showing us that they are ready to govern. And so if we don't allow them to by pulling out, then when are we going to allow them to take responsibility for their country?
We are allowing them. We've already signaled that we're pulling out by 2011. We made that absolutely clear. We've signed that agreement with the sovereign Iraqi government. Our troops are coming home as we speak. I think this is just one more step in the right direction. There's no reason to say, wow, they voted at the polls, well, let's bring them all home immediately because of that. There are still problems that are persisting up in Mosul. Al-Qaeda is trying to make its last stand. We need to help with that, and we need to continue to train Iraqi security forces who, while stepping out front, aren't always fully capable of providing the logistical support that they need to sustain their operations.
One of the most significant things, you know, I'm sorry to cut you off. We only have about 20 seconds here. One of the most significant things here are that Sunnis are fully participating, the minority group. 3 candidates in total were killed ahead of Iraq's vote. Those men happen to be from the Sunni Arab minority. Back in 2005, had these Sunni minority candidates campaigned out in the open, I mean, what would we be facing back then?
Multitudes of people killed had they done that in the open. Today, they're taking on Al-Qaeda as it's a signal that they're out there campaigning. It's a great thing, and I'm happy for the city of Samarra, where I served, that brave leaders there are now able to represent them.
All right, I got to go, but I just have to ask you, women, how are they playing a role in this?
They are participating. A third of the candidates are women, and they're even voting in places like Fallujah, where women weren't even allowed to vote or be out in the public in 2005. It's a wonderful step. We should be proud for the Iraqis today.
All right. Well, thank you very much for talking to us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Craig.
Middle East on